jeans are torn, sweat coming through my shirt. Keep pushing even though it hurts. I'm chasing what I know is true. There's nothing that I would not do. When everyone around me drops, I'm never gonna ever stop. I won't waste another minute, no I won't. I'm a man on a mission.
All right.
Yes, we're back, baby. We're back.
We are back and underwater. No, just kidding. We're not underwater anymore.
Well, we were.
But lessons learned from the pros. Let me tell you, check your sump pumps. Even if you have an alarm, check your sump pumps, because guess what?
Often.
Alarms don't always work. Again, hot tips. You're going to have lots of hot tips today. So real quick, just the other day, actually last week, we had our daughter walk down. Fuchsia was like, Mom, I just walked down to the basement. I walked into water. And of course, it's everybody's nightmare, right? Like, or one of many nightmares. But anyways, she walked downstairs. I walked downstairs expecting to find maybe some puddles. Not the case. The entire crawl space was underwater. So
This is what happens when that little guy fails. Ain't that alarm system? And that is chock full of water.
oh, yes.
It was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of water. Oh, I would estimate probably 10,000 gallons that was under our house. Because of how our house was built and because of how the sump pump was placed, we didn't really have access, but they had what was called an alarm for any wetness that would have been in the crawl space. Well, that alarm failed. And then the sump pump failed. And then this leak, which we don't know if it happened from a high pressure valve or if it's somewhere else, but basically it filled up our basement in the matter of maybe a week, a couple days, but what happens is it came all the way through the floorboards, so that whole crawl space was filled up. Floorboards are now getting dried out, but we've had, probably 10 fans running, and we had probably 10,000 gallons pumped out. So they're doing their job. We got some, water remediation companies coming, and everything's going well so far. We just don't know what the extent of the damage is until we can get down there and see if anything else has been compromised. But as of this point, it looks like it was just water, and it wasn't. It was not sewer water, which was beautiful. It was
like Christmas in July.
like Christmas in July.
It was a do-it-yourself
We are
indoor
thankful
pool.
it was not sewer. Right. Yes.
It was bad. It was.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of
bad.
DIYs going on these days
Yep.
on YouTube, so I can see why you guys did that. But
And there was a couple things that we checked right away. Is we didn't have access to the sump, so we went outside to see if was there something outside that had broke where it's starting to run in. So we looked all around. We actually called the city to ask them to come out and check the main and see if it was either their
Huge.
side or the
Yeah.
service line. Ford will talk about what service line is. And then the other thing that we checked too was our sump. Once we got access to it, we realized, this thing actually had failed. So what happened is once that failed, then the water was uninhibited, just ready to just rush in. And then it probably took a matter of, we hadn't been down there in about 24 hours. We had company come in for the weekend. And this happened, what we believe is on Tuesday morning. Monday morning, wasn't it? Monday morning. So by the time I was headed to work, Amy had called me and said, we got a problem. So, these are huge. It's a small thing, right, that can turn into a humongous issue. And it's best to be protected the right way than to just often wonder if I got the right stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is, Alex?
yeah, so we learned quite a bit from this whole ordeal, which at your guys' expense, I'd say. But three main things that we learned about this is, one, make sure that you have sufficient water backup coverage. That's a huge one. That's like your sump pumps, any indoor plumbing stuff that might be exposed to that nature. Second one would be service line protection. That's going to be your copper piping that's attached to the main line from the city. People don't factor that in. And then the third one, which depending on your location geographically and also what time of the year it is, if it's flood season, it might be a little tough, but flood protection. So those are three things that we learned that definitely want to go back and look at your guys' insurance policies and make sure that you're covered sufficiently. You know, if you've had a policy for the same amount of time over the years, your house is probably increased in value, which would, and of course, obviously cost of materials. So you're going to want to make sure all that's factored into your current coverage at this point. So.
Yeah, and I would just say from a homeowner standpoint, obviously part of Right Quote, but being the homeowner, I was like, okay, wait a second. Why would we need, flood insurance in Colorado? It's generally dry, but we have had a rainy season. The city was really good. So big shout out to Colorado Springs Utilities. They were fantastic. They came in, they made sure that it wasn't a city line issue. They also listened to make sure it wasn't our service line. So I'm super thankful for that. But it is really, really important because even in areas where you think there's no flooding, if you've got an onset of rain, and that's why I just say hot tips here, hot tip Tuesday, is, really make sure that you're checking your sump pump regularly. Also, just make sure that you do revisit your insurance with your broker. If you don't have a broker, call us. We just want to make sure that you're covered the way that you should be. So check in with us. We can give you some tips. I mean, we are literally learning from this whole situation. So just sharing with you those types of things. So I think we plan over the next couple of weeks or 2 weeks to kind of cover as we learn. We're gonna share with you so that we can also just enlighten everybody.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I would say the last thing is get some of these things in order before the problem happens. Amy and I talked about this last night, and I'm like, it was really beautiful that the last homeowners gave us this accordion file that had everybody that they had dealt with and even the previous homeowner had dealt with. So it gave us a crisp, easy, fresh list to call instead of opening up the phone book or looking online and being like, where do I go? What I found out too is actually having to call a few of these people. They were booked out 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I said I have a flood. They said I can be there in 2 weeks. Are you serious? But that's how busy they are.
Yeah.
That's how busy they are. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, line the stuff up. So in the event that you need a contractor, go find a contractor. In the event you need an electrician, go find one before you have the issue, right? Because then that way when you do have an issue, they already know you. You already have an account set up so that when you do call, they're like, oh, yes, Mr. Baxter, we'd love to come over and help you. Instead of, hey, we'll have to fit you into our schedule, which is 2 weeks later.
And I think this is also a really good lesson, too, to just make sure that you know your insurance agent. It is really helpful. In this particular situation, I mean, obviously I have David, so yay. But I do know that there's been quite a few questions that I've even had for David. And so just looking over those policies. So review your policies annually, which I know, Alex, you kind of touched on that. And we always say that, but really, really important because there can be a rainy season ahead. And if you know that, maybe add those things on for the next year. It's a minimal cost over the course. And of course, with the amount of costs that go into situations like we are going through right now, you can mitigate some of that just by having extra coverage for those periods of time.
That's exactly true. Great point.
Awesome.
Great point.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, guys. We will be in touch with you again as this water issue challenge progresses. So,
and it's good to be back.
It's good to be
back. I'm a man on a mission.